Jamie Wollrab.
Oh my God, you said it right. Oh,
yes.
Oh my God.
High five me on that.
Oh, wow. I was like, perfect. Phonetics. Thank you.
Welcome to the Thought Room. I'm so happy to have you here in my home today. Thank you for making this journey and having this talk with me.
Thank you for welcoming me. It's great to be here.
Of course. So you're here because we actually met in February at the Dr. Joe Dispenza Cancun week-long meditation retreat. And we collided in the last few days of the retreat, I think in the dining area. Do you remember?
I think it was the last day.
Yeah. Was it the last day?
It was the last day.
Did someone introduce us or?
I think so. God,
was it Jen?
So. It was Jen.
Okay. So Jen was a guest on the show. I don't know if you knew that. I actually interviewed her, Jennifer Benetato, down in Mexico. We did our interview from my hotel room. So if anyone hasn't already listened to that one, I recommend they go back.
I listened to that one.
Did you listen to that one? Oh, cool. And she tells her stories all about living with Ram Dass. Super juicy.
And I met her at that table too. So it was just, I didn't know anyone that was sitting there. I think it was quite kismet.
Her and I met because she sat down next to me and complimented my hair. And that was the beginning of our connection.
Great hair.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. My best friend cuts it. Shout out to Danny. So, and I was asking you before we hit record how things have been blossoming, flourishing, opening for you since the retreat. Is there anything else you'd love to share about that?
I mean, I love that something that Dr. Joe talks about is the past self and being able to train it. And the thing that I'm having a lot of fun doing is going, stay, and having a loving relationship with the past and the past thoughts and really bringing in more energy into and focusing on the future and the life I'm building. And it's just unfolding in such an exciting way. We're just the Red Sea parts. And it's like I'm waking up every morning going, I wonder what's going to happen today. And it's just, it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
There's a nuance in that I'd love to unpack with you, which is this idea of focusing on the future. Because some people hear that and they go, I'm always focused on the future and I'm stressed and I'm anxious and I'm planning and my life is a series of to-do lists. So how have you been able to take these learnings and not be in that space, but more of a space of creation?
I think that there's a difference, because I think the difference is of the sort of the neurotic when you're trying to, that is the past, because what you're trying to do is control. So it's actually the past, you're just projecting onto the future.
Right.
And the way that I have sort of metabolized it from Dr. Joe is receiving the energy of the future and what's possible.
Receiving the energy of the future and what's possible. So allowing ourselves to push past the blockages and the ceiling of what we say is possible. I find this so often. I'm curious if you do when I'm working with clients where people are actually afraid to dream. They put like a cap on how much goodness they're allowing themselves. And the reason is, I believe, because they're afraid they won't get it.
What my favorite quote, I think it's probably my favorite quote, which is, take the leap, the person you will become will catch you.
Ooh, I love that.
Right?
Do you know who said that?
I mean, we'll figure it out before the end.
Wow.
But it's that. It's so... I love that. I mean, again, we're talking Dr. Joe. I think people are addicted to their feelings. They're addicted to those feelings. So if you actually get what you want, if you do manifest, you actually have to change, because the person that you've been doesn't think they deserve it. Right? So by taking that leap, you genuinely have to become somebody else.
Right.
Breaking the habit of being yourself.
Breaking the habit of being yourself. And it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
You know, it can be fun, but it also really is uncomfortable. And talking about our emotional addictions, I was speaking with a client yesterday and about like his relationship dynamics. And I was explaining how when we're young, something happens, something traumatic, something terrifying, a moment in which we didn't feel safe. And I learned a lot of this just through Joe Dispenza's work, him talking about the pineal gland and all the chemical cocktail that are excreted, and how we have this tiny little apothecary in inside our brains, and then it's connected to all these other organ systems. So if you think about it, a child, and you have a terrifying moment, it could have even been when you were in the womb, right? And your mother didn't feel safe or supported. And you're not even fully conscious of what's happening yet, or maybe you are at that point because we're still hyper connected to source. And there's an imprint. So it's like your first hit of the most intense drug you've ever experienced. So the moment at which that happens, there's a set point inside of us that's like, whoa, this is a different experience. And whether we're conscious of it or not, we spend a lot of our lives seeking that same fix. And it comes out in all these subconscious programs and a lot of relational dynamics. So we'll get into relationships that remind us of that feeling, and we stay cycling around in the same stuff. And we wonder why we can't leave.
Somebody said recently that people said, oh, we have to learn how to trust. We have to learn how to trust. And I love that somebody said it's the opposite. It said we have to learn how to not trust.
To discern.
No. I mean, how I mean is that we have to learn how to not trust because we are trust. That's what we are. That's what we know. So we've learned to not trust because of the thing that happened in the womb. Right. Our natural state is to trust.
Right. This reminds me of the Marianne Williamson quote, love is what we were born with, and fear is what we have learned here.
That's right. Yes. So
100%. We're aligned on that. So I'm really, really excited to dive into what you do because it's so unique. And I really love having people on the show who have these really interesting cross sections of work. I had my friend Matt Zian on the show not too long ago, and he's in the space of psychedelic media. I was like, oh, that's such a cool cross section. And you're another person who has one of these really intriguing cross sections. So I won't give it away. I'll let you talk a little bit about what you do for our audience.
Okay. This is so fun to talk about because this is actually being birthed because I've basically spent more or less 10 years doing two very seemingly different things. I'm an actor, trained as an actor, went to great grad school in New York, started a theater company. I went to Mason Gross, part of Rutgers.
Beautiful.
And amazing talent. And I really gravitated to the voice teachers there. I give a shout out to Nancy Mayans and then incredible voice teacher. And Stuart Pearce, who I met through, we're conjuncted to the Globe in London through Rutgers. And we got to work with them, and he was Princess Diana's coach, and Mark Rylance, and he and I become like Nancy and Stuart are two of my closest friends now. So my acting had a metaphysical imprint. So my best work happened with Stuart's an angel medium, and Nancy is a master of energy, and so I was like, there's something bigger here, and then I ended up working with a Jungian acting teacher. So
a Jungian acting teacher.
Absolutely. We do dream work.
No way.
Swear. So I spent years.
Fascinating.
One of the greatest acting teachers, her and her daughter are incredible teachers, Greta and Sandra Seacat. So I would assist them, and I was just fascinated that I was healing, and Sandra called actors, the true artists, wounded healers. So we would heal ourselves through the character, and then that would heal the audience. So I had this healing lint through my work. So then I became an acting coach and a voice coach. But then people started healing their relationships, healing their lives. And then I had an ayahuasca journey. And I didn't know.
Wait, how long ago was this?
This was 2013.
Okay.
2013.
Okay.
And in the journey, I saw a phalanx of men, these like Shaolin warriors. And I was like, what is this? Yeah.
I love your vocabulary. I just have to say that.
Thank you. And I then dove into men's work. And then I read The Way of the Superior Man. And I found my a men's coach. And then I dove into polarity work, masculine, feminine work. And then I started coaching people, doing conscious work. I have my own men's group now.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Yeah.
So I just closed my second year as
Cool.
my own group. And what happened was I realized that, and Jung talks about this, he said that if he could even take a psychotic, if he could teach a psychotic to become creative, he could heal them. So I immediately was like, artist way.
Wow.
Way of
I
the
love
Superior
the
Man.
Way.
It's amazing.
Way
So
of the Superior Man. We talk about that book all the time.
So
on the
those
show.
2 books were these sort of Bibles of helping people find their creativity. And I said, if I can help, so I work with actors.
Right.
And what I do is I help them come up with a divine masculine structure to their lives so they don't feel so listless and waiting for a job. Right. And so they feel purposeful.
Yes.
And then like you, I work with thought leaders and I help them become creative. And then when I create groups and I put them together. So here, somebody who's the head of a business and they're working with an actor and they're both like so different. And we just closed our men's group and it was about half and half. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to cry talking about the absolute transformation that happened the divine masculine and feminine in both. So the thought leaders were more kind of rigid masculine and these very expressive, artistic, feminine, energetic feminine men crack their hearts open. And these businessmen who have imprint in the world and wealth, they helped the actors find more footing and grounding in that they had merit and that they can make an imprint in the world.
Yes.
Art and commerce in a way, if you want to say. So one of the examples, one of the heads of industry, he'd never celebrated Valentine's Day with his wife. And as a group, we like helped him create the most romantic day for him and like for his wife and poems and flowers and things. And she was just so the imprint, the transmission that came off of him to his world,
the impact, the ripples.
And then he wrote a manifesto about love and performed it. So every man had to then put out a piece of art at the end.
Yeah.
So I had written a film when last year he wrote a manifesto. Somebody else wrote a script. Somebody else started his own school. So I didn't want to just teach them how to have integrity. I wanted them to have confidence that what they do and the energy they put into things matter. Because if you're an actor in Hollywood, 99% of the auditions you work on, 99.99 you don't get. So you can feel like nothing you do matters. It just goes into the void.
Right.
Right. So I wanted them to have an audience and feel like they made something and because we don't give birth. Right. So I'm called the Creative Mastery Coach. So that's what I do. I brought it all back.
Yes. Nice job. Creative Mastery Coach. I love that. And I love this idea of creativity as a catalyst for healing.
Yes.
So profound. So the voice work, this really fascinates me. I have, as you can see, if you look around my apartment, a great interest in sound healing. I have some singing bowls. I have some chimes here. I have a drum. And working with sound, working with frequency and vibration, as we also discovered even more deeply with the Joe Dispenza work, vibration is it. That's what this universe is.
And each center has its own brain.
Each center has its own brain, each chakra,
frequency,
energy center. Yes, exactly. And sound for me, my interest in it was basically nil. I mean, I liked music. I didn't even have that great of taste in music earlier on in my life. Now, making Spotify playlists and things like that are one of my favorite things to do, and curating music for different experiences, because the tones that we surround ourselves with, they entrain us, they entrain our environment. And my opening with sound really happened after my first set of ayahuasca ceremonies. I started to experience sound in a different way. I started to be more sensitized to sound. I had a session with a sound healer in New York, and it was a psychedelic assisted journey. And during that journey, he was doing all the sound, he was doing all the toning, and I had this insatiable urge erupting from deep inside, like my visceral gut. And it was like I wanted to make sound, but I was suppressing it because I was like, no, Hallie, you're supposed to be like listening and receiving this. And this sound was like wanting to come out. And so eventually it was just, it almost felt like this giant burp. And I just had to release this sound out of my body. And I started toning with him. And the two of us just dropped into something I had never experienced up until that point. Now I have many times. But communicating felt like telepathically and creating these different intervals with our voices, these different tones, these different frequencies. And I felt the aliveness in my body. It felt like someone was going in and turning on all these light switches in different chakras, growing them, balancing them. It was really quite an ephemeral experience. And the sounds that were coming out of my mouth were sounds I did not recognize, but I remembered. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And some of them were really almost like Mongolian and throaty, and others were really high tones. And it was a completely magical experience that shifted my life. And now toning is a part of my practice. I really do believe that if you can get quiet enough and sit with yourself and ask your body, what sound do you want to make right now? And not judge it. Let it be as weird or as wild as you want. The body knows how to heal itself. And as we know, the body is connected to all of our emotions too. So when we make sound, we give ourselves permission to feel feelings that maybe it doesn't feel socially appropriate to feel anywhere else. And it's such a powerful healing tool, in my opinion. I'd love to hear a little bit more of your experience with sound, as well as the vocal work. And I'm sure that being in the industry that you've been for so long, you can read so much about people's energy when you first meet them simply by the way they carry themselves, the way they walk into a room, and the way that they use their voice. So I'd love to hear more about that from you.
God, let me count the ways. I actually have to turn it off.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Oh, wow.
I do. I have to turn it off because I don't, and I'm like, it's not fair.
Yeah. Because you're like assessing people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're, yes. Okay. Let's see. Let's unpack this. How do I want to begin? I love the quote, I think it was Deepak talks about that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to God. And voice to me is such an intimate, personal thing that begins inside of our bodies. And the vibration that comes from inside of me reverberates and now is entering the person that I'm speaking to, and vice versa. So I think we have a responsibility to own our power, own our voice. It's so connected to breath. It's so connected to energy. So when I do even a voice like you did with the ayahuasca, connecting to the voice is its own prayer. It is its own. I'm aligning my internal world with the external world.
Yes.
And the resonance of that.
You're being conscious about the frequency you want to emit.
Absolutely.
When we're conscious with our speech, or our vocal expression in any form, we are in the moment.
Well, and also so even us right now, if there's something a tone that comes out too sharp, let's say, and I could see your body recoil, or I'm saying something and then you light up and you're like, whoa, and you expand.
Yeah.
So I'm actually observing and listening as I'm talking, because the thing that is coming from inside of me is actually having an effect on you.
Yes.
So I'm still present with you while I'm feeling so like, where's my resonance coming from? So it's coming from my heart, it's coming from my power center. And if it might be coming too much.
Yeah.
And then I can actually take my sound and let it around. Now I'm going around you. So I'm speaking to the side of you. So I can actually use this to elicit opening. I can use it to, it's a tool.
Yes. You're reminding me of the time that I spent teaching children. I used to be an elementary school teacher. I worked in Waldorf schools. Amazing. Yes. And this is where I really learned about the voice. Because you have a classroom full of third graders and they're coming in from lunch and they're flying off the handle and they're throwing stuff at each other and they're, rummaging with all their stuff. How do you get them back in their bodies? And what I found after not too long, and a lot of teachers make this mistake, and parents do too, is, I'll just raise my voice to get their attention, right? And when we do that, same as when we're in a fight with our partner, we're entraining each other to a more chaotic state, right? We're just trying to be on top of each other. So what I found is the most effective thing for me with this group was to say something really interesting, but just a little bit more quiet so that they actually had to stop what they were doing and be with me. And I would say something like, I'd maybe just start snapping my fingers. And I would say very quietly, if you can hear me, snap your fingers. And then I'd change it and I'd start clapping. I'd say, if you can hear me, clap your hands. And then, of course, children in the room start doing it. And the other kids are going, what are we all doing? I want to be a part of it. And before you know it, the whole room is silent. Same thing with storytelling, leaving pauses like I'm doing now in between so that you're hanging on the words, right? So these are some amazing, amazing, amazing tools. And I would love to know any other things like that people who are listening now, because, okay, and I'll give another little aside. Something that came up while you were speaking was deeper compassion for myself. Oftentimes when I'm in large groups or big social settings, I'll judge myself because I think that I'm judging other people sometimes. And I go, oh my gosh, I'm just not interested in this conversation. Is there something wrong with me that I don't feel connected here? And that I feel shame around telling the other person, I don't feel connected. AKA, I don't really care about what you're saying right now because it sounds like you're talking about yourself. And how do we distinguish in a conversation whether we're connected or whether we're talking about ourselves? And I'd love to hear your answer on this. But for me, it's being aware of our intention in the conversation. Like right now with you, my intention is to connect with you and to hear your story, to really hear it because I care about doing that versus do I want to sit here on the other side of this microphone and sound really smart? We've all talked
to those.
Well,
you're doing both.
But we all talk to those people and you're like, yeah, they want to hear themselves speak, right? People like that where you're like, oh, they're just...
I live in LA.
Okay. Touche. It's that head voice, right? I think I heard you say that on another podcast. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So something that you said to go back, if you're in your voice, you're in your body. Great way to know if you're in your body is if you're in your voice. So if you can feel the vibration going through your toes, through your being, you're like, wow, I'm in my body because I can actually feel the vibration moving through my body. Right. So move the mic away. Because I talk with my hands. So,
I love it. You're very expressive.
I am. I am. So the head voice, right?
Yeah.
So that means we're in our mind.
Yeah. Will you demonstrate that?
So I'm in my head voice right now. So we do this when we're being directional. So, Hallie, if you're like, where's Starbucks? So I'm going to go down the street. So it's more informational. So the news is a lot of head voice. So, or I'm talking up here and there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm not sure you would want to listen to me on your podcast for an hour and a half if I'm up here.
Right.
Please stop, Jamie. Right. So speaking from here. So what I'm doing now, and this is why I love Dr. Joe, is the fourth center is that moves from the past to now the speed of light. Yes.
Right.
So
yes.
there's all these neuron connections to the heart.
Yes.
So a great way to know that you're listening, a great way to know that you're speaking in a symbiotic way. Am I in my heart?
Yeah.
So as I'm speaking to you, can you, I hope I'm doing this right,
yeah.
actually feel the resonance coming from my heart?
Yes.
So if I'm speaking from my heart, it enters the heart.
Yes.
So if I'm speaking from the head, it's not really going to go beyond the information. So once you get the information, you're going to tune out and become distracted.
Right.
So part of what you did, I think with the kids, that it wasn't just about getting quieter. You were noticing your voice landing.
Yes.
Oh, you were receiving. I'm actually, fishing, and I hooked him. I got him.
Attuning.
I've attuned
in real time,
and because I can actually feel. So I teach this. This is what when I teach my 3-day weekends workshops, I call it the 3 circles of energy, or the 3 spheres of energy. I like spheres now because they are spheres. So what I'm doing is I'm connected to my truth. You're connected to your truth. You have your history. I have my history. We've come here to have a conversation. So you're your sphere, and I have my sphere. And what I notice what's happening more and more in the world is everyone is, I shouldn't say everyone, but a great number of people are in their own spheres, like Facebook, and you're in the algorithm of your own reality and your own thoughts. And then you have all these people just reverberating back what you already know.
Right.
I love watching things that I don't agree with because I want to continue to expand my consciousness.
Yeah.
So that's second circle. So you and I now are in the second circle of energy. So
the first circle is ourselves.
Second
circle is the ones we're directly relating with.
Exactly. So you and I are you're sharing your story. I'm sharing my story. So to answer your question, am I too much in my first circle? And you can also be too much in your second circle. Like,
right.
I'm overly concerned about what you think of me.
Right.
I'm
externalizing, asking questions
projecting,
that sound nice but aren't really authentic, and you're not truly listening to the answer because you're just really thinking about what you're going to say in response to it, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And I knew, because I'd listened to you before and knowing you, that I was like, I didn't have to prepare anything because we have oceans of our experience. And then together it's going to be the magic of what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And so the third circle is your audience. So right now, even though you and I are having this conversation, there is 1% of it that is artificial because we're not just talking, you and I, we are talking like this is being recorded and people are going to listen, and we're also talking to them even though they're not here. We have a consciousness of the third circle.
Yes.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
So as I'm in my experience and my truth, I have an open heart and vulnerability to learn from you, to even be wrong, to listen, be affected, and hopefully do the same. And then the magic of that in that transmission is what people are listening to right now.
Yes.
And so we're constantly doing, can I show off to you for a second?
Yes, okay. Please.
So this is one of my favorite things about voice. We are always talking to one of the 3. We're either talking to ourselves, we're talking to somebody else, or we're talking to God, or we're talking to the audience. So you can't see this, that I'm doing this, but
if they're watching on YouTube, they can
watch on YouTube. Okay, good. So like a famous speech, like Shakespeare. So to be or not to be. So I'm going to start with first circle, go to second, go to third.
Cool.
To be or not to be. That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles by opposing, end them.
Beautiful class.
Right?
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm conscious of my voice, the purpose of that. Because there's sometimes I'm talking to somebody and I'm still working it out in myself, and that's okay.
Right.
Oh wait, who came up with that quote about that one? Oh, well, we'll look it up later, right? Mm-hmm. That's us talking in our own first sphere. Mm-hmm. And then you and I then connect. So when at your party, be aware of what sphere is being activated. Yeah. So if you're stuck in first too long, you're going to get anxiety. Mm-hmm. Yes. Does this make sense?
Yes, totally. Totally. And I'm thinking about when we're planning to have an important conversation, or in my case, an interview, right? And I actually learned this lesson pretty early on in my podcasting career when I was getting ready to interview Dr. Dennis McKenna. I thought, oh, this is such an important guest for me. I love his work. I've looked up to him for so long. And he was coming down to the ayahuasca center that I was living at the time. And so I spent a few days beforehand watching all of his material. And I watched him on Joe Rogan, and I was writing down all the most juicy stories and things that he said. And I mapped out, okay, this will be perfect. This will get the best, juiciest stories. And what I found was, particularly with someone like Dennis, he has done so many interviews over the course of his career. And thankfully, with the help of ayahuasca, I had been really deepening into some of these energetics of attunement and what it means to actually really be fully present with someone. So in the process of doing the interview, I could visibly see in his body language and also hear in his voice when I was asking a question that kind of bored the shit out of him, right? And if you go back and listen to the interview, you might not notice, you might, if you were listening really hard for it now that I've pointed it out, but I could absolutely tell. And I thought, oh, I've just asked him about a story that he's told 100 times. And so I'm now taking him into the past. I'm not taking him into the place that's most alive in him right now, which is the present moment. So the next week, I believe, I was preparing for another big podcast guest who is Dorian Yates. And he's a 6-time Mr. Olympia, very famous bodybuilder. I'm not a bodybuilder. I know like a grain of sand about bodybuilding. And I also, frankly, don't really care that much about bodybuilding. So for me to come and prepare a bunch of questions about bodybuilding would have probably been pretty inauthentic. So I took a giant leap of faith and I said, I'm not going to do what I did with Dr. Dennis McKenna. I'm going to show up as myself and I'm going to ask questions about what I'm really genuinely interested in knowing about this person. Now, if you go on our YouTube channel, you'll see people saying that this is the best Dorian Yates interview on the internet. It shows different sides of him people have never heard before. And it was this beautiful response to it that I couldn't have possibly anticipated, but it came from the organic attunement that happened between he and I, and this coherence that Dr. Joes talks about between, our heart fields. So I think there's a really fine line between preparing what we want to say and being flexible and attuned in the moment. And I do believe it comes from thinking about more of the energy you would like in the conversation rather than the specific words, right? So I'm here with you. I stated before my intention was to feel connected, to share information, to be a hollow bone for anything that wants to come through. I don't really need to control the actual content of the conversation. I just need to keep modulating myself. Am I in the energy that I set the intention for?
Well, another thing that I love everything you said. And another thing that resonated for me as you were talking with McKenna, you abandoned your first circle. So you became so focused on the second circle. And so then you weren't an equal in a way, because then it was all of the stories that he'd already told, as opposed to Mr. Olympian, I forgot his name.
Dorian Yates.
You were like, well, I'm just going to show up as this powerful being, which I am. And then it's going to be this magic. So it's interesting that so many people I work with, it's for them to remember how brilliant they are and how much they do know, and how powerful and how full of love and how full of intelligence. So that they can, you said, over prepare.
Yes.
That then they think that the other person has the answers.
Right. And that's being in the mind, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I love that adjustment, and I love how attuned you were to make that adjustment. I think that's just, I'm blown away.
Thank you. I think vulnerability comes to mind too. When I was thinking about your suggestion of speaking through the heart, and I've been writing a lot lately about, I think I've written this line in my book a couple times that I'm working on right now, is this is the age of the heart. I do believe this is a discourse right now, this pocket that we're in as humanity. It's a discourse in moving the energy from the mind into the heart, and in training our bodies with that, and then actually acting in the world from this place of the heart. And for me, vulnerability is a really, really big piece of that. So speaking from our own experience, the head voice, that informational voice, that mental plane, it's not really connected to a whole bunch of feeling or personal responsibility. So can you keep yourself alive in the moment when you're in conversation with someone? The way that I do that is I think this comes from the work of Tara Brach. She's one of my favorite Buddhist American teachers, is keeping part of your attention on the inside. So I'm here, I'm sitting with you, and then I'm speaking, but I'm also keeping part of my attention on you, keeping part of my attention on my breath, anchoring to my breath as I'm speaking and listening. If you're speaking and you can't feel your breath, or if you're listening to someone else and you can't feel your breath, you might be in your thoughts. I love to pay attention to the color of someone's irises. Just keeping myself there, breathing, tethered in the background the entire time. And these are some of the things that keep me present and grounded and connected to my own feeling experience while I'm relating with another.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know. Do you have any other tips on that for people as far as, deep relating, authentic relating with each other?
I love making sounds. I think it's happening.
Can we make some?
No. I mean, I think I've been doing it throughout the call, the interview.
Yeah.
So you're saying so much that is just opening me, and my, it's just so. I love the sometimes just a sound reassurance of alignment.
Yes.
That's a great way to make sounds. I'm doing it right now. it's like I'm turning the into something conscious, which I love.
Right.
I also enjoy breaking up the rhythm of my breathing. So my thought pattern, if I'm in my head, it's usually shallow breathing. So if I can just box breath does this. If I'm like, you know what? Let me just expand my breath just by 2 seconds. And then let me exhale and really let the carbon dioxide out by 2 seconds. And and then, that's where I normally stop.
Right.
And then really let it out.
And what did we do right before we hit record was I invited you to take 3 breaths with me. And the other awareness that just came is, oh yes, and I can attune to the breath of the other person I'm in conversation with. Doesn't mean I have to breathe exactly like them, but an awareness of their breath shows me where they're at inside their body and in their nervous system. If they're anxious, they're going to be breathing a little bit more quickly and shallow. And I can actually invite them without words to drop into their body and breathe more deeply by mirroring that here in the conversation. Yeah.
Ta-da.
Breath. The breath is a really, really powerful tool. Yeah. Beautiful.
This is great. I love how much you know.
Oh, I know everything and I know nothing. And that's the way I prefer to keep it. Yeah. So you've worked with some incredible spiritual teachers.
Mm-hmm.
You've worked with some incredible clients. You've been all over the world. You've led workshops. I'm sure you have some amazing memories and peak moments that are coming to mind where you stood rapturously still and you zoomed out for a second and you scanned across your environment and you thought, holy shit, this is the life that I've attracted. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share one of your favorite moments of your life that is coming to mind right now.
Oh, that's so interesting. It's a great question. I mean, I just love being of service. Genuinely, I mean, also very open about this. I'm an addict and I'm 12 years sober, 12 and a half. And so much of that work is about serving others. And to me, the transformation of like one of my best friends and clients, I'm giving her a shout out, Lana Parilla, who was Evil Queen on Once Upon a Time.
And,
yeah. So
wow.
So we've been working together
forever.
Yeah, she's so talented and so amazing. And I remember because I love the spiritual work as well. So when we first started working together, she had a few pilots. She'd never had a show go more than one season. I remember this. And we were working together. We were doing breath work and voice work. And she's a brilliant voice. And she's worked with an incredible voice teacher named David Farkas, who has recently passed. And we were working together. And there was this moment. And, as an actor, you need money, of course. And you kind of go paycheck to paycheck. And I remember an offer had come in for this pilot. And I said, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know why my whole body was like, don't do this. And I said, there's something coming. I can feel that there's something coming. And she agreed and she passed on it. And then within a couple weeks, this ABC show, Once Upon a Time, came around and
wow.
And the casting director, she'd auditioned for something else. And the casting director was like, you're not going to get this. This is the thing. And when she got it, she was the first one cast, and we ended up coaching it for 7 years. And just being that involved with her and just the fans and like the people that she touched, and just to see her whole life change. And, it was just so awesome that that's something that I can say that I spent 7 years working on, like affected so many people in such a positive way. And she came and celebrated my son's 3rd birthday at Disneyland. So it was just like, I just love watching my friends' success. And I have my own, which is, beautiful and wonderful, but to see them not only succeed, but become better people and actually receive the compliments. Like I love that in your podcast, you talk about somebody complimenting your hair and to see her for the rest of her life, she can go to these Comic-Cons and all of her fans go. And It's just one of many of being able to have that kind of job where I'm like breaking down scripts and helping, working on characters but also bringing a healing to it so that the audience unconsciously gets the healing.
Yeah.
So people were like, I was suicidal, or I didn't know that I was gay, or I didn't know these things that she have all these fans that come to her, and they're very generous and they follow me as well. But I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of, and we're continuing to work to this day. And it gave me a lot of confidence that I could be in any room and coach anyone and know that I had something of value. That's one. She's amazing, and I wanted to give her a shout out anyway.
I love that because I sort of asked you about a moment, and you enriched my question by giving an answer that was a feeling. And again, this goes back to the Joe Dispenza stuff, is the future self and the feelings that we want to experience. And I think that is, I could see your eyes welling up. I could see your connection to that. And I do believe that every single one of us here really just wants to contribute to life in a meaningful way. And when we find that, it's the greatest gift in the whole world. And I believe that we can do that by focusing our attention on the feeling that we'd like to experience and calling that in.
Now I can answer that question in a different way, is that I had a really powerful moment. And, I've had my own theater company, and I still do. And I do plays, and I've made my own film. And I remember I was at Dr. Robert Glover's house doing a writer's retreat. And one of the things that my friends and clients have said about me for years is they're like, we don't know what he does, but it's amazing. How do you express him? How do you describe him to people? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm this kind of leprechaun warlock thing that is just like, do it behind the door.
A vocal Jedi.
Yeah, but also just, I do, dream analysis to acting coaching to, a million things, men's work, masculine, feminine, polarity. And I had this moment, Hallie, that I said, I'm going to be my next piece of art. I'm going to be my next transmission. And that was when the creative mastery came. And that's when I started writing about the work I'm doing, because I'm codifying it now, because I want people to be able to repeat it. And I'm starting in June, a 6-month journey of creating my first online course with Amanda Chase, because I don't want it to just be for, elites and things like that. And when I had that moment, I'm like, oh, but I have to become it. And so now it's a very uncomfortable thing, because I'm kind of making it about me right now, which is really uncomfortable. And I hired a stylist. I did all these things where I want to occur in the world as the powerful transmission made manifest.
Yes.
Which is very, very challenging, when I'd rather be like, no, you.
Right.
So
right.
That's what the universe is calling me to be, on a podcast like this. And even though I came in nervous and knowing how brilliant you were. So that was the moment I went, oh, I am my piece of art. I am that canvas that I'm painting on, not just the people I serve.
Well, thank you for standing in your deserving. It's beautiful to watch. You briefly mentioned how your journey of getting sober and that pocket of your life was a big awakening for you. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that journey and maybe life before, if you'll go there with me?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Let's just go.
If you're willing to breathe through it.
I'll breathe through that.
Yeah.
There was, again, it came through my amazing teachers, Greta Seacat and a couple of my other teachers. I just felt I had potential. I felt that there was something inside that I knew I would have these manic moments of eureka. But then I would crash, and I'd crash hard, and I didn't know moderation. And
what did that look like? Crashing hard. You can go there.
Oh yeah. Cocaine and seeing the sun come up and in a fetal position in a shower.
How often are we talking?
I was a weekender. I didn't get that frequent, but it was bad. But when it got bad, it was really bad. So that was near the end of 2009. And my fiance at the time was from, I was flying back and forth to Austin, actually. And she had moved to LA when I'd gotten sober. And I was like, oh no, I'm getting the end of my using wasn't to me that bad. It was the first 2 years of being sober. That was downing sugar. That was self-loathing. That was one of the hardest times that I've ever been through. And then I ended up that relationship dissolved. There was, so much self-loathing. I can't even begin. It was like I might as well just kill myself. It was that. It was
the thoughts. The thoughts were really heavy.
Yeah.
The way you felt about yourself.
It was, if I could, and I thought, what's wrong with me? Because my best friends all were able to use. And I remember my fiance at the time drinking wine, and she would just leave the glass half full. and I'm on my third, and I'm like, how do you wait? No. Like, how do you leave that? How do you just throw that out?
Right.
Like, I didn't understand that. No, you don't drink a glass of wine, you drink the bottle. Like, you have to finish it. So they say about addicts, that one drink is too much, but 1,000 isn't enough.
Yeah.
So I was in that mode. And I remember my teacher saying that if you got sober, so much of your potential will happen. And I remember that moment, and I knew that it was going to take about 5 years. And really it's taken 10 to 12. Like it's taking a while to turn around that aircraft carrier.
Right.
But yeah, it was suicidal ideations. It was, I also was the first person in my family to get sober. So I was really alone. I felt like, what's wrong with me? But then, by the grace of God, 4 of my family members got sober after.
Wow.
So I've been a bit of a trailblazer in that way, but there's no net. I'm like, know. And then
except for your future self.
Well, now I know. Then I met Dr. Joe, and I'm like, where was this when I needed you?
Yeah.
And which is right now.
Is there like a low point that you remember where you're like, Jamie, this is not good. This is not okay. Like this is getting really scary.
Yes. You know what? It wasn't in a way of like actual danger, like a DUI or anything like that. This is so embarrassing. I directed a music video for Ryan Gosling's band. And
I didn't know Ryan Gosling.
He did. He does. It's really good. It's really
sweet.
Good. It's called Dead Man's Bones. You should listen to it. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And I directed a video, and it's still, you can watch it. It's Werewolf Heart. It's really good.
Sweet.
But I was fiercely insecure at the time. And I remember they were launching the album, and they did a bunch of videos, and they had told me not to show anyone. This is right near the end of my using. And being insecure, I showed it to somebody, and that person then ended up telling the band, like, oh my God, it's so good. And I remember them saying to me, we told you not to share it with anyone.
Yeah.
And I was crushed that I wasn't of my word.
Yes.
I wasn't, through 12 steps, you make these amends and things. But I remember going, I just sabotaged an opportunity. And then they ended up never really doing the main release of it with the album. And I just remember, I was like, my life's passing me by. I've been given this beautiful opportunity with these creative people, and I sabotaged myself. And it just crushed me. And the work was good, but I'm like, it was letting my unconscious get in the way of my genius. And I'm about to write a blog about this for my course, which is emotional talking about this. Our words and our actions. So why I love of men's work and I love sobriety is that it's like being honest. My life depends on it. It really does. I have to, I can't hold on to these resentments. I have to tell the truth or I'll die.
Yes.
Ultimately, or I'll die spiritually. And so I think I'm honest mostly because it feels good, but also when and being able to look at those moments and have a compassion for that little boy that didn't feel safe. That wasn't enough, that wasn't included, that was the runt, the little guy. And to be able to talk about it now, and why I teach voice is that what happens when I work with my clients, when their thoughts and their words and their actions line up, like they truly become magnetic.
Yes.
They're dependable. I mean, I think I was here at 11:57, and and it's like these things that these little micro integrity that that becomes your transmission to the world.
Yes.
And that moment of feeling out of integrity broke my soul. Yeah. And I saw the look of disappointment in their face, and it was so small, but it was so big. And that was really the moment that got me sober. And I'm like, I might not get another opportunity like this again.
Right.
And I haven't.
Yeah.
I've had different ones and I've had amazing ones, but I really have compassion for my fear of success.
Yes.
And now it's like, putting myself out there. But I see it so clearly for you. I listen to your podcast. I'm like, oh, you're this. And I can see it so clearly. But with me, there's the Marianne Williamson quote. It is our light that scares us, not our darkness.
Yes.
So it's almost every time that my darkness came up, it came because somebody who was interested in me I didn't feel worthy of, or an opportunity came my way. And that was my addiction, really, was addicted to the sabotage. So
this topic has been so prominent for me lately. I energetically feel where I'm at in what I'm building, what I'm creating. And the sensation is like being on the upswing of a swell of a wave. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to crest soon.
The screws are going to start popping off.
I'm going up a roller coaster and I feel it. And I was on the phone having a difficult day, and I'm so blessed to have such incredible, amazing friends in my life. And they're all so gifted and talented in their own ways. And one of my dear friends, Heath Diekert, is one of the top coaches in absolutely the country, but the world. And we were on the phone, and he was just deeply listening to me in a moment of pain. And he said that we always run into self-sabotage right before we are about to expand into our next big phase. And this is the way that we kind of test ourselves. This is the way that we bring our shadows conscious. So it's not innately a bad thing. It's a beautiful gift if we can see it that way. Not, oh, I fucked up, I did this. It's like, oh yeah, this is how I'm keeping myself small because I'm scared. And it's okay to be scared. Like, let me be just tender with myself in this and say, sweetheart, what's really here? Where does this come from? How do you want me to be with this, with you? So I just wanted to bring that around because it felt really relevant to what you were saying. I want to go back to, you were talking about someone's energy being this emanation or transmission in the world. And I think this connects a lot to the work of David Data and John Wineland and embodiment. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about masculine, feminine polarities. I'm thinking specifically about the masculine and this idea of embodying safety. I've been around people that I would consider conscious men, and they don't even have to say a word. And my nervous system starts to soften and disarm itself. It's something about how they're emanating, the way they're being, more so than what they're saying. And that having that healing masculine force in my life as a woman has allowed me to surrender a lot of stories, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma that is just so pervasive for us as women that's been going on for thousands of years. Men have their own stuff that they're working through too. But the idea of a conscious man being a lighthouse for everybody he comes in contact with to feel just a little bit more safe, that sort of energy heals the world. So I'd love to get your take on masculine energy, conscious masculine energy. What does that mean to you? And how can men embody that? And what are the effects that you see that has?
Oh my God, I love that you're touching on like all of my devoted practices. Because I spent 7 years with John and brilliant teacher, and just in David's book, all his books, Blue Truth. I really love Blue Truth.
I have not read Blue Truth.
It's a beautiful, beautiful book. So that came into my life around 2014. And
so a year after you drank ayahuasca?
Yeah, because I called it in. And so it took, then I took the dive.
Yeah.
I remember. The thing I love the most that I learned in those years was to husband your own feminine to men.
Yes.
So I have a feminine nervous system, even though I'm a masculine man and I'm heterosexual. I'm an artist, right? So I have an emotional body that needs to be processed. So the practice for years is men working with other men. So that's been a huge practice for me. So I think one of the problems that I see that men are doing is they're trying to do the work to make somebody feel safe. And so there's a lot of regurgitation of this work that's happening right now. And there's a lot of just people repeating David data when I'm like, this is taking me years to even begin to understand. I mean, this is a martial art. This is a practice. And why I love it. Something John said to me. He said, if you want to get a woman to trust you, you first have to get men to trust you. So there was a lot of iron sharpening iron and men calling each other out, going, hey, I mean, the things that have been said to me in men's groups, like,
give me one.
Oh my God, you look like a limp dick. That's one of my favorite ones ever. I'll never forget it. And I'm like, what do you mean?
You look like a limp dick.
That didn't hurt. That didn't get me like, in my body. Or, we can look at each other and we can say, you look like you're keeping a secret. I don't trust you right now. And men can really sharpen men because we don't want anything from them, right?
Right.
I'm not trying to get anything from them. That's why we have our dojo with the men. And I have to keep it, anonymous, but basically I was in a group once and we said, there's something, you're a cat that ate the canary and there's a dead body in your trunk. We know it.
Yeah.
And there was.
What do you mean?
Meaning, as as a metaphor.
Yeah.
He was cheating, and
right.
And we knew he was.
So you could feel it in his energy.
Absolutely.
Ooh, I want men. I want everyone to hear this.
Okay.
You could feel it in his energy. How often do we gaslight women for their intuitions? Right? And men are like, that's crazy. You're being this. And this has happened to me so often in my life. And the older I get and the more I learn to trust my intuition, man, it's almost never wrong. It's wild that what I can sense within another person. Now, it's not always accurate.
I'm going to defend men here for a second.
Please do.
Okay, good.
Let's do
it. Because it's yes. I mean, they can gaslight. But one of my favorite quotes is denial is, don't even know I am lying.
Okay.
Right?
I'm with this.
So men aren't taught to be
conscious.
in their, well, they're not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to have feelings. They're not allowed. So they go to the strip club. They go to the thing. So,
right. I feel that.
Right.
Because it's like I want to be good. I want to be the perfect partner for you. And I have these needs that I have too much shame around expressing.
And for men, especially now, the cost of slipping up is so great.
Right.
So if there are a cheater, then she's going to tell all her friends. And so he's doing everything he can to protect. So do a little bit of empathy to go equal.
Absolutely.
But this is what's most important for men and why I do men's work, and I will never stop doing men's work. The masculine thrives by challenge. So men we push each other like this. And all of us, because we have feminine too, the feminine, according to David, thrives by praise.
Yeah.
So men who are identified as masculine, for them to grow, they need, actually to this day, I love the man that called me the limp dick. I'll never forget it.
So do I.
And I went, since then, I'm working on my spine and I'm going to do chi generator. And that actually had a positive ripple effect. So to go back to now that's all people are going to think about when they see this podcast. Oh yeah, the limp dick guy.
Yeah, he was
not
great.
That I have one. It's that I looked like one. I don't know if that's any better. So this was a long time ago.
I swear it's different now.
It's different now. It was right. This is
forget about it.
I'm going to gaslight you. I didn't say that. No. So the part of what you trust is that they are able to have somebody else point out their blind spots. So they're not as much occurring unconsciously. So if a man who's unawakened and unprocessed, what you're picking up on are their unconscious cues, I believe.
Yeah.
So if somebody, those men that you feel safe with, they are allowing their shadows to be already processed before they come to you.
Right.
They weren't just born that way.
No. And what's coming up for me, let me know if you feel this is also true, but the shadow being so inextricably linked to our sexuality. And when I look at men who I consider very confident and embodied, or women who I consider very confident and embodied, and in a way that doesn't need to take power away from other people in a space, it's that they're confident in their sensuality or sexuality. Doesn't mean it's necessarily being expressed, but they're holding it inside their bodies with this presence, like a candle that's just gently burning. This looks like to me at a party or whatever, a gathering, a very attractive man who doesn't need to sound super smart, who doesn't need to bro out over top of another man just to show who's alpha. You can see it in his energy. You're like, oh, he knows. He knows and he feels it and he's so comfortable with it that he doesn't need to wave it around. Same thing with a woman. You can have two women. You can have they're both astonishingly, we'll say physically beautiful. They walk into a space. One is presenting in this way that is, everyone look at me. It's like, I need all the eyes on me. I need all the attention. She's getting it. But there's like a texture to it that seems like manipulative or needy, right? Insecure. And then there's another woman equally beautiful who walks into the space and she gets attention not because of how she's demanding it, but because of how she's holding herself in the experience. These are the subtle energetics that when I go to a space, I love to just people watch and scan and pay attention to how people are being and relating with one another.
Yes. I mean, it's all theater.
Yeah.
It's all theater.
All the world's a stage.
It is. It is. And that, and then there's also, they might be having a bad day. And I love that. And I love being attuned to that. And
oh yeah, I'm not perfect at this.
Oh, I know. No. I there's something that you said about, because I can't leave it. I want to go back to it. It's that, yes, I think there's something really powerful about to not allow somebody to gaslight you, especially women who have intuition to men. I want to answer this question and I want to go to the other piece in a second because I think it's important. I love imago dialogue.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so what I believe that most of my women clients have a problem doing is projecting on their men.
Yep.
I know you called her. I know you're called.
Oh, yeah.
I know you did this.
Absolutely.
And so they're coming at them, and so immediately it elicits
defense.
Defense.
Yes, 100%.
So one of the things that I teach the more feminine partner to say is that, I have this story, or I'm making up that. My intuition is kind of driving me crazy right now, but I keep thinking that I have a fear that you're talking to somebody else, or you're texting somebody, or you're mad at me.
Right.
So it opens the door to the man.
It's an invitation.
Yes, and
it's not blame based in blame.
It's second stage relating.
This is personal responsibility,
and this is voice work.
So I'm coming to you and I'm saying, I'm experiencing a feeling.
Yes.
I am struggling with this feeling. My darling, will you help me?
Thank you.
Right?
It's if that person gaslights that,
yes,
they're a sociopath and break up with them and leave them. But if you come in hot, it's to a masculine nervous system, they're going to go into fight or flight.
Yeah.
So there's a way of, I believe, and I worked a lot with a lot of feminine practitioners, and I come in to help and work with the women, is you have so much more energy running through you. Yeah. That you can blow our circuits.
100%.
And we're like, I haven't cried since, 1994. And you're coming at me. And I went, I need to titrate it.
Yeah.
So
that's a good invitation.
So I just think that women are intuitive and men gaslight. I don't want to put that and codify that as a reality.
Yep.
And to give some of the feminine responsibility
Absolutely.
to let the men be in their hearts a little bit more to tell the truth.
Yes. 100% to all of this. This is really resonating with me. And apologies to the partners in the past that I short-circuited because with me, if anyone's listening to this show, they know that I just want to go right there.
Right.
It's very deep, and I love this invitation to, as the woman, also be attuned to how is he receiving? How is he responding? Maybe I can check in with him. Hey, do you have space for this conversation right now? If you don't have space right now, when would be a good time?
Absolutely.
This feels really important to me. And it is really important in relationships that both people have the space to talk about their needs and desires. I want to say that because I've been in relationships where my needs and desires didn't have space. And what that looked like for me over time is sort of like being a frog in water that's starting to boil. You lose yourself very slowly. And
great metaphor.
Yeah, you lose yourself. Everything starts to feel a little foggy, a little confusing. I wasn't really sure what I wanted or what I was like, what am I actually feeling? I started to feel very far away from myself. And one of the greatest gifts that men have given me, actually women too, the people I'm now surrounding myself with, and I will accept nothing less, is people who turn me back to myself. This is what you and I were talking about before. I don't need a guru. I'm really looking for myself here. So there's some power dynamics that come into play when we're relating. And ideally in our relationships, we want to share power, right? So it's so easy for us to give away our power without even knowing it. I would do this all the time. When you're in a moment of feeling vulnerable or helpless, it's like, oh, tell me what to do. I'm da-da-da. And the friends that I have, the relationships that I have now are people that will breathe, will look me in the eye, and they'll say, you know, I'm here with you. We can talk about this. What do you feel is the right thing to do? So I spent some time in relationships before this that wasn't there as much as I would have liked. And that was part of me being in that damsel in distress archetype where it's like, save me, I'm helpless. And with some of the men that I was with, that also is like a really nice little like ego thing for them. It's like, oh, I'm needed. And I'm not saying that in a way to berate anyone. This is all happening on unconscious levels, obviously. So, oh, I'm needed. I get to be of service. I get to help her. I get to show her the way. And this is where a lot of women will shout things like, I don't want you to fix me. And men are like, you shared a problem and I'm trying to help, right? Supernatural.
Just go to Home Depot and get those feelings fixed.
Like it's not a big, oh, that friend said that to you? Like, why don't you just ignore her? And it's like, no, you're not hearing me, right? We see those things. You're not really hearing my feelings. It's not actually a solution or an action that she wants. It's usually empathy. So the people in my life that have enriched it the most are those that give me empathy and they give my power back to me if I, unconsciously try to give it away. And that's really important. So having your needs and your feelings heard and validated is something I think visceral and core to this personal growth and spiritual growth journey.
I mean, I love everything that we're speaking of because it goes back to the voice. It goes back to owning my own truth. And it's possible that it could be wrong. A shout out to Dr. Glover. He would say to his partner 3 things. Ouch. That hurt. Did you mean it to? Ouch. Because I'm like owning my experience. That I'm telling you this hurts me. And now I want to know your intention. And 90% of the time, it's usually no. And then the 10% of the time, which is, you know what, actually, I do have a bone to pick with you or something.
Yeah.
And so I find that everything is creative and especially love. And because I do find it interesting that I have so many female friends and female clients that they want their, like, but if my man would just be this and my man would just be that. And then the men that do the things that they want them to do don't polarize them. And they want the guy that ignores them. And then they're attracted to the guy that mistreats them. So I'm like, well, you have to then own the responsibility that you're calling in, and you're only attracted to the people who don't give you what you want, and the people that do, oh, they're your buddies.
Yeah.
So so I teach, and I also teach men to not, to have boundaries, and to Robert Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, which is, he gets a lot of flack for, but there is something to that don't be nice. I mean, be kind,
right?
But to be in your heart and be fierce.
Yeah.
And because sometimes that feminine storm that you're talking about is much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not about you. So you just got to let that storm come and breathe and not fix it and just be with it, because her moods are going to change.
Right.
And it's usually over nothing.
Yeah.
But it feels like it. That's the feminine, is that it feels like it's everything in that moment.
Well, it's not over nothing, but it is over something that might have nothing to do with them. It's usually about safety or
Absolutely.
trigger.
I'm speaking from the male perspective, meaning it's nothing that you did.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. And you might have been the stimulus,
Sure,
right? But it actually wasn't about you. I love this. I've mentioned this particular vignette multiple times on the show, but I love it. So I'll say it again. In David Deda's book, The Way of the Superior Man, he talks about a man being asked to go out and get some milk. Right?
It's my favorite.
It's the best. It's so archetypal. So he's told to go out and get the milk. And he forgets on the way home from work, he forgets the milk, and he walks in, and the woman's like,
No. He got $1 million or something. He got that. What we're missing the part of the story.
Oh, okay. Help me out.
He was asked to go get the milk, and then he gets a raise and he wins $1 million.
Oh.
And he's like, I won $1 million. And so he forgets to get the milk to come home to tell his wife.
Because he's excited
about the $1 million. I'm like, honey, we got the $1 million. And she's like, well, where's the milk? And he's like, I'll buy you a dairy farm. What are you talking about? And then she's upset that he didn't get the milk.
Yes, exactly. And the idea is, it was never about the milk.
There you go.
It was about the agreement that they made. And the agreement is tied to her sense of visceral safety.
Yes.
Like I'm talking about, it is activating something in her primal reptilian body about feeding her children. We know it's not that. Like, we live in this modern society where we can just go out and get milk. So to understand that when things don't make sense to you sometimes, it's because they don't make sense, because they're not happening on a mental plane.
Absolutely.
We're having these unconscious responses and physiological responses. Our nervous system is activated, and to have compassion and kindness for, hey, wait, maybe there are things operating on other dimensions that I'm not seeing here. Can I open and soften to the possibility that I've missed something without getting defensive, and listen beyond the words to what's really being asked of me here?
I want to add something to that. That's beautiful. I love that. I do. And to the other side of that coin, because
I love how we're doing the other sides of the coin with each other.
It's great.
So
it's beautiful, because I work with so many women and understanding the male psyche, because in that particular story, there is also levels to that man. So on a tribal sense of, I need to hunt the buffalo. And here I
brought home the buffalo.
I brought home the buffalo.
Aren't you happy with me?
Aren't you happy with me because I killed the thing to survive? Me doing the feminine thing of me getting you the milk is not on the tier of an overall divine masculine consciousness of where we're going. So for the feminine to go, I understand why he killed the buffalo or got the $1 million, and have compassion for his hunter in him, that's where he distracted his or diverted his attention to provide.
Yes.
It is the need to provide in a masculine sense. It's so primal and to protect.
Yeah.
So I think that we can be conscious, and that requires a feminine being to develop her own masculine, and for the masculine being to develop his own feminine of empathy, and to be able to go, we're now I'm so glad that that's what you care about.
Yes.
And most women want the man that would rather kill the buffalo than get the milk.
Right.
Even though they're butthurt about the milk, they're secretly on a deep, deep, deep level.
It's like he's leading us.
Exactly.
He's leading us. He knows, he sees, he's reading the entire field.
So it's bigger than the milk.
Yes.
And even though that he has to be able to be okay with her complaint, and he's not going to get the praise for the buffalo or the $1 million, and he's going to just have to deal with the fact, I'm never going to fully make the feminine happy. And that's our practice. She's going to always find the whole of where I'm unconscious. And that's part of the beauty.
I love that. And if we can all just love that.
Love it.
It's so true. That's how we mirror to each other and help each other grow in these relationships. The feminine is so great at finding that one
chink in the armor,
little tender, unprotected spot and just poking at it. But I think if that wasn't there, if that wasn't innately threaded into the way that this universe is wired with polarity, yes.
Kali cuts the heads off every man that wavers in consciousness.
Yes.
Necklace of their heads. You keep us conscious.
Yes. And that keeps us alive as a species and growing and thriving and spiritually evolving. Beautiful, beautiful. I love this. And I have such deep reverence for both the masculine and the feminine. And I've had so much fun over the years playing in blooming both of those within myself. It's been such a joy.
You embody it. You really, really do.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm curious when you say that, so that people listening can hear. What is it that you're aware of? What are you attuned to?
Oh, let me count the waves.
Oh, Jamie.
There's the way you move is so beautifully feminine. Like the way the space itself and the colors and the smells and the light and the textures and your voice, your hair, your taste. It's just impeccable. It's just so all of that. And yet there's this like pull that I feel that moves through you, that is integral, that is unmovable, that is, it's like I see there's something about you that's unwavering. And to the way that this whole thing is a divine masculine transmission. And I see you on a mission. And the way you own your own experience and the sovereignty of that is just awesome. And vulnerability. And you can bring out the sword, but then you have flowers. And it's like in each question, it's amazing. And I get to dance and then get in a foxhole with you. So
I'm deeply receiving this. Thank you so much for that beautiful reflection. Feels really nice.
Dexterity, such dexterity.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So as we round out today's conversation, more so than interview, it's been so beautiful, this back and forth with you. If you want to check in with your heart, your body, your beingness, that thing that you connect to, that energy that you connect to when you feel most turned on by yourself, most alive within your being, and just check in with its little voice or big voice and ask it if there's anything else it would love for us to talk about today, anything else that you would like to share or transmit.
Yeah, I do. And this is why I do what I do, and why I love is this third circle is just, let's not take ourselves so seriously, and not to tell you, but myself, I'm saying that to myself, that I'm waking up, like it's on was it The Office? I think it's The Office, where they said, I wish I knew that these were the good old days at the end. It's that I know there's a lot going on in the world, and I know that there's things to be afraid of, and oh my God, the market and the world, and it's tragic, and they'll do what we can do. But also, it's like we're alive now, and make art now, and have fun now, and laugh at yourself. And like one of my favorite moments already on this call was I was a limp dick. Like it's just laugh. Like it's part of the spiritual work that I see this in men's work where I just want to tickle them. I'm like, come on, guys, like let's live a little, let's have, and I'm seeing this happening more in men's work, and why I'm particularly gifted for what I do is that we're here to make art. We're not here long, and have some fun, give yourself a break.
Yes.
And the best things that I've ever done have come from humility and laughter.
Yes.
And yeah, that like, and be creative today. Like even those beautiful flowers over there, like make art of your life, make art of the conversation. And that's what, when we ended with our men and this beautiful Creative Mastery Men's 7-month program, to really give your gift. And this is one of the things I loved so much about John's daughter, Claire, which is, don't wait for yourself to be healed to give your gift to the world. And I love that.
I love that.
That you have a gift now, and that might just mean smiling at somebody at the store. That might mean that, there's a David Data book called Instant Enlightenment. Like we can just do it now. We're making art right now. And yes, we're calling in the future self, but the future self is here.
Yes.
And we can embody it, and we can breathe it. And that's why I love voice work and theater and sacred theater. It's that we can create, we can stop our past, let our story go, and just dance or make a face. And I think that my friend had this with her husband. She said in any argument she was with her husband, she would say the first one to make the other one laugh wins the argument.
Ooh, I love that challenge.
The first one to make the other one laugh wins.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I want that. It's like as much deep work as we've done.
Yes.
And I know this Miles Davis quote is it takes a long time to sound like yourself. And one of my mantras right now is that, I'm living in an amazing, amazing life, not because it just that it is, but because I'm realizing it.
Yes.
And how many of you out there might be living in an amazing life and not know it?
Yes.
And I offer that.
Oh, thank you so much for that. That feels very potent and relevant in my own life, calling in that fun, calling in that joy. My best friend, Danny, she calls it the why so serious energy.
Oh, yeah.
She just is like, and if you met this woman, she's radiant in every way, in her energy, in her physical expression. I don't know, she looks so aesthetically perfect that to me, she's like an extraterrestrial supermodel, just facial structure, just luminous skin. And she's very deeply spiritual. And she's got these, one of her favorite things is to have these beautifully long, adorned fake nails. And it's like this extension of her that I love because, I don't have nails and pretty simple with makeup and things like that. And a lot of women in the spiritual community are very grassroots, back to earth, back to natural. And so I think with someone like Danny, we've talked about, I said, do other women judge you, judge your avatar, judge the way that you adorn it? Do they think you're not spiritual because you like to have these long nails that are bedazzled sometimes? And she's like, this is the why so serious energy. She's like, we incarnated in these physical bodies to be in our ultimate artistic expression of play and fun. She's like, this is part of if we were in a video game, it would be like, what skin is your character wearing? What's the avatar? We're allowed to change things around. We're allowed to play. We're allowed to express. And so I love that. I love that piece. I love that invitation. She's taught me so much about my judgment of that kind of stuff too. And we're here to play. Let's use all the things in this universe. Let's have fun with it. And another woman in my life is she's Native American. She's been best friends with my mom for a very long time. Her name is Sue. And a couple of years ago, she was visiting my mom out at our property, and her phone alarm went off in the middle of the day, and this message popped up on it. And it was a reminder that said, fun now doesn't matter. Fun now doesn't matter, meaning have fun now. Whatever you're worried about doesn't matter. Are you having fun? Are you having fun on this plane in this existence? Because like you said, we can instantly entrain ourselves with that. It might not be easy at first, but the more we practice, it's like, I can look around this apartment. I can be right here in this breath with you, celebrating my life.
Yes.
I am sitting across from you. We're having a fascinating conversation. I am learning, I'm growing, I'm being enriched by it. We are getting to share it with other people. I have a really fun day planned after this where I'm going to see Krungbin in concert. So it's like I'm marinating in the juice of the life that I have created, and I'm in that moment now.
Yes.
Fun now. Doesn't matter.
I remember, I think John told me the story about David. He said to all of these practitioners who, so devoted and, deep work and kill each other, kill themselves doing this work. And David just said once, y'all need to do improv or acting class or do improv. And I remember, like, I kind of came in the other way. I was trained as an actor first. So when I'm in these workshops or leading workshops, or I'll dive in and give an example, or I'll do the theater, and then I can pop back out and be in the masculine and hold the space. Because it's move the energy through your body.
Yeah.
It's most of it isn't what's actually happening anyway.
Yes.
So play and have the dexterity to let the projection out, or let if it's, I love third stage work in his work, where if you're jealous or or stomp your feet or do the thing, and it's all just my own built up stuff.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh my God, this is fun.
Yes.
Even me solving the problem of the relationship. And that's why I love rehearsal and creating art, because we're like fucking it up, and it's just like we rip our hair out. It's like, oh my God, what are people going to think? And then the play opens, and it's like, well, what if the whole thing, so my friend, Eric Honeycutt's, another shout out, an improv teacher. He goes, when you do the improv thing and anyone makes a mistake, he goes, we have a 1 second party. So someone makes a mistake, 1 second party, boom, okay, back. And like, it's really amazing that we're like, oh, this is incredible.
Yes.
This is like, how this happened, how I'm here, how we ended up here. And we were there, and then this, and then we have all these friends in common. And then he reached out to me, and I'm going to be here anyway. And that was like, there's so many other things at play that are, have you ever heard of pronoia?
Pronoia.
It's the opposite of paranoia. So paranoia is just as preposterous, like everything's out to get you, right? That's paranoia. Well, if that's true, then everything out is conspiring for my good. So pronoia is like, oh my God, isn't it amazing how everything works out? Everyone's like trying to help me.
Yeah, that's Paulo Coelho. All the universes conspiring
for my greatest good.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
It's like, well, it's the opposite of paranoia. So it's like, what is that? And that's why I love Dr. Joe, is as I'm moving into this new realm of giving out this gift, it's like, what if this was pleasurable and easy? Because it's been hard, but I kind of liked it hard too, which is like...
That's the spiritual masochist in me.
But I love it though, because I'm also like, oh, you have no idea how hard it is. Like, it's like I'm such a drama queen.
Totally.
Because it's not hard.
Right.
It really isn't.
Right.
Like, so I'll shut up. But it's just like, I'm having so much fun, and I feel so blessed to be here and to share this. And yes, it's deep work, and yes, to be sincere. And it's also like we're above ground right now. And
totally,
and trying to give some light and love to the world.
Next time you're in Austin, I would love to have you over, and let's have a little improv party.
Love it.
Like theater games.
Absolutely.
And this is an invitation for anyone in their little friend circles too, is throw a party, play some theater games, play some board games, have some fun, be silly. allow yourself to go there and be seen in that way.
It's the greatest spiritual practice is to laugh.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Yeah.
It's been such an honor to have you.